Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and today, an award-winning mailbag. My mom says it's the best Texans mailbag on YouTube, so I'm taking questions from all my viewers, and we're going to get that started. If you're like, hey, I want to get on a mailbag, well, this is your opportunity right now. Use hashtag Texans in the comment section, so whatever you say, just use hashtag Texans in that comment, and you'll get a chance to get on our next mailbag. The only caveat, you must be subscribed. So if you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? First of all, go down and hit that sub button. We're bringing you daily Texans news and rumors videos all year long. We are the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube. And number two, it's the only way you can get on the mailbag. So if you want to ask a question, if you want to get up on the show, have your voice be heard, go down, use hashtag Texans to get on the show, and make sure you're subscribed. Let's get right into it with our first question from T. Jones. He gave me a little laundry list of what he wants the Texans to do this offseason. He said, first, sign Saquon Barkley in free agency. I completely agree. I like that move. Draft Quinyon Mitchell or Cam Kinchins in the first round. Ooh, I have a video coming out, a little teaser, a video coming out this next week with my Texans big board. Both guys are on my Texans big board right there. Quinyon Martin or Cam Kinchins. Also, I think it's Quinyon Mitchell, actually. Quinyon Mitchell. He said also get Roman Wilson in the second. I think it's a little early for me on Roman Wilson. He also said re-sign Greenard and Cashman. I can get behind that. I can get behind all this, actually. If besides Roman Wilson in the second, I would say get him in the third round. Also, I think those pair of Texas wide receivers could be there for you in the second round if you want, either Adonai Mitchell or Xavier Worthy. So that's the only one I disagree with, but all the rest of it, I really don't mind, in my opinion. But I have a quick question. We talking about free agency. We're talking about in the draft in that question. What are you more excited for this year? The Texans have a ton of cap space, top 5 in the league. They also have all their picks in the draft. They have a first, second, third round, fourth, all in the draft this year. So let me know, are you more excited for free agency, type F, or are you more excited for the draft, type D? I'll be looking in the comment section. Yes, you. Let me know, are you more excited for the draft or free agency coming up for your Houston Texans? Next question, a spicy one from Jasmine Hidalgo. She says, I'm sorry. I don't have to be sorry. It's all good. I don't want to pay T. Higgins $22 million a year. I'd rather have Gabe Davis at $9 million if possible and draft a receiver in the second and third and best available in the first. And I don't necessarily disagree with you, Jasmine. There's some more areas of concern rather than wide receiver. So I wouldn't mind Gabe Davis on a, smaller contract, $8-9 million a year this past year. A little bit of a down year, 45 receptions, 746 yards, 7 touchdowns. But we've seen what Davis can do in spurts with that Bills offense. I mean, hey, look back to just last year in the playoffs, that playoff game with the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, Gabe Davis looked amazing in that game. So he's shown spurts, so I wouldn't mind that. And you're saying, wide receiver in the second and the third. My draft darling right now, second, third round pick for wide receiver. Keep an eye out for Javon Baker. Now, with the NFL Combine coming out, my buddy Trey Sherrard might be heading to that, so you'll have to keep an eye out for him, for Javon Baker for me as well. But I think this guy can really rise up draft boards and end up being an early second-round pick, if not a surefire second-round pick. Javon Baker for UCF this past season, 52 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. When you watch film on Javon Baker, he is explosive, and he is a really good catcher of the football, natural catcher of the football. Javon Baker, a guy that you should keep an eye out for. Go look up a couple of his highlight tapes from UCF. It'll make you like him a little bit more as a draft prospect. Next question coming in from Darrell Smith or Darrell Smith. Either one's cool with me. Hashtag Texans. Since Ibuka isn't coming out, which one of CJ's old teammates do you see us picking in the draft? Obviously, he's talking about guys from Ohio State, and I was kind of surprised that Ibuka wasn't coming out. I guess the wide receiver class is loaded, so he's thinking maybe if I come out the year after, then I could be a higher pick in the draft, but you also risk injury there. And I was interested in the Texans possibly picking him in the second or third round of the draft to pair him back up with C.J. Stroud, but while I'm looking at Ohio State potential draft picks for the Houston Texans. These are the 4 that really stick out to me. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think there's any way that you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's a top 5 lock in the NFL draft this year. And for the Texans to move to 23 up to the top 5, the amount of draft capital you'd have to give up to get Marvin Harrison Jr. is crazy. You would be crazy. Even though he is a phenomenal player, possibly the best player in the draft this year, regardless of position. I think he is the most bust-proof player in the entire draft this year. It would be way too much to go up and get him. But these other guys you could possibly get in the later rounds. Cade Stover, Tommy Eichenberg, and Michael Hall. Keep an eye out for Michael Hall. He's a guy in the 3rd round, which if he's on the board for the Texans and they didn't select defensive tackle or didn't go all in free agency for defensive tackle, I could see them looking at a guy like Michael Hall in the 3rd round to draft to fit that need. And speaking of the draft, we will be bringing you the best draft coverage of your Houston Texans on the entire internet. So go down and hit that subscribe button for more Texans draft and free agency content. When the Texans sign a player, we're going to bring you a video. If there's rumors about them signing a guy, we're going to bring you a video. Around the draft, we're going to be breaking down every single pick. So if you want free content around your Houston Texans, 8 to 14-minute videos daily, go down and hit that sub button. It's completely free, and I always say, give me a week. Go down and hit that sub button, and if you don't like it in a week, you can unsubscribe. There's nothing to lose. It's 100% free, but let me prove to you why we are the #1 Texans channel on YouTube. Next question coming in from John McClure. Would you rather spend big money on an edge and draft DT and wide receiver, or spend more on a wide receiver and draft D-line? Well, I'm actually going to go with neither. I would want to spend big money on a defensive tackle this year in free agency and look at edge and wide receiver in the draft. I mean, I would also look at defensive tackle in the draft as well. But if you can get any of these 5 guys in free agency, that would be a huge win for the Houston Texans this offseason. DJ Reader, Leonard Williams, Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, Justin Matabuke. These are the guys. I actually had a video. If you didn't check it out already, there's a video on the channel of me breaking down all the defensive tackle free agents that the Texans could sign. But if they're able to get any of these 5 guys, I would be one happy feller. Caleb Kaufman. Yeah, I got you on the feller, didn't I? Caleb Kaufman says, do we draft a tight end or defensive tackle? Why not both? You can get both of those positions in the draft this year. Here are the defensive tackle prospects, not ranked in any particular order for me, but these are kind of the top 5 guys that I'm looking at. Jer'Zhan Newton out of Illinois, Devondre Sweat out of Texas, Leonard Taylor III out of Miami, Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State, Maason Smith out of LSU. And I know what you're saying. Where's Byron Murphy? Where's Byron Murphy? Well, I think he'll be taken before the Texans pick at 23. But if Byron Murphy's on the board at 23, bring that kid to Houston. I actually covered him here in Dallas while he was playing for DeSoto High School. A great young kid, a great young athlete. If the Texans are able to get Byron Murphy, that would be a win. But I also like these top 2 guys as well, Jer'Zhan Newton and Devondre Sweat. And speaking of tight ends, here are my top tight ends in the draft this season. Brock Bowers, if he's in some way able to fall down to you at 23, he's amazing as well. I also covered Jatavion Sanders in Dallas while he played high school ball. He's another stud at the tight end spot. But another name that I want y'all all to keep an eye out for is Theo Johnson. Impressed a lot at the Senior Bowl. Texans were able to talk to him a little bit at the Senior Bowl. Could be a sneaky pick in the 3rd, 4th round, along with Erick All, the Iowa tight end. Could be another mid to late round pick that really pans out well for the Houston Texans this year. And my last question coming in from Jonathan Rivera, hashtag Texans. Why don't the Texans retire Arian Foster, put him in the Ring of Honor? And Jonathan, I completely agree. One of my favorite Texans of all time. Growing up, watching the Houston Texans, Arian Foster was that dude. If you didn't have Arian Foster on your fantasy team, what were you even doing? I mean, look at these are the best 4 seasons that he had with the Houston Texans, and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, each year, over 1,200 yards on the ground, over 600 yards receiving in multiple seasons. I mean, over 10 touchdowns in each one of these years. He was regarded as a top 10 player in the National Football League multiple years in a row. So, Arian Foster, I think he 100% deserves to be in the Texans Ring of Honor, but this is Chat Sports. It's not Jeremy Sports. So, I want to hear from you folks at home. What say you? Should Arian Foster be the next Texan to be inducted into the Ring of Honor? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. I personally think he should be, not just because I was a huge Arian Foster fan whenever I was growing up, and it kind of timed out perfectly. Whenever I was getting really, really into football, he was the best player on the Houston Texans alongside Andre Johnson and J.J. Watt, who both those guys are now in the Ring of Honor. I do think Arian Foster should be the next one in. But let me know down in the comment section, Y for yes, N for no. Should Arian Foster be in the Texans Ring of Honor? And as always, go follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs for the latest NFL news and rumors, the dankest memes on the internet. And if you haven't already, go hit that sub button for daily Texans videos. We're bringing you the best Texans content on the internet. So don't miss out. Go down and hit that sub button right now.